Hey, so I get this question a lot in the homeschooling groups, and it's constant, like probably several times a day in the homeschool Facebook groups. People want to know what the requirements are for North Carolina homeschoolers. So I keep thinking I want to make a video about it, but to be honest, making YouTube videos is becoming more and more difficult with my schedule. So I thought just very quickly I would give you the details. That way I can direct people who ask this question to this video, and it would be very simple. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm a mom. I have 5 children. My older 4 children are basically grown or in college, and then I have a 9-year-old that I homeschool. I also work full time. Um, and so we kind of homeschool around that schedule as best we can, and we make life educational. so, um, the first things first, homeschooling in North Carolina is really simple. The first thing that you have to do is you have to file what's called a notice of intent. So I wanted to make sure that I had the website pulled up. If you go to this website called it's ncadmin.nc.gov, and you will see then the divisions. You're going to go to non-public education, then you're going to click on homeschools and file notice of intent. To legally provide homeschooling, you have to file a notice of intent. The division runs from July 1st and ends on June 30th. So you cannot file an intent from July to April. Homeschools may not be opened only for the summer term or for grade recovery. And um, the children have to be your children. So you can't homeschool, well, 2 families. You can't homeschool more than 2 families or 2 households. And so, like, if you wanted to have like a homeschool pod or whatever, it would have to be done so that not one family was homeschooling more than 2 families. Um, you don't have to actually register your notice of intent until your child is 7 years old. So in North Carolina, kids don't have to go to school until they're 7. And so you do not have to file a notice of intent until they're 7 years old. Um, they do ask that you watch a video when you do the notice of intent. And at the end of the video, you can fill it out. So some homeschool requirements, okay? So basically, homeschooling in North Carolina is like operating a non public school. They require that you have a high school diploma or its equivalent. At least one of the parents or guardians must have a high school diploma. Again, you have to do the notice of intent, and then need to you need to have a name for your homeschool. And when you name your homeschool, you want to name it something that is not, well, they say do not use things like charter, college, elementary grade, grammar, high, incorporated. Don't use things like junior, kindergarten, lower, middle, primary, public, residence, schooling, secondary, seminary, senior, the university or upper. Um, it has to be less than 30 characters in length. And in addition to that, when you're naming your homeschool, remember that this name stays with your homeschool all the way until you quit homeschooling. Um, you can operate as a religious or a non religious school in North Carolina. You need to have a regular schedule for 9 months of the year, excluding holidays and vacations. So that means you have to have either, you can have school Mondays and Tuesdays for 9 months, or you can have school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or you can have school Saturday, Sunday, or you can say I'm having school 3 days a week or 4 days a week. It just has to be a regular schedule. There's no requirement for the number of days that you must school. There's no requirement for the number of hours per day. Um, just that you must operate on a regular schedule for 9 months out of the year. You have to maintain your child's immunization records and attendance records at home. And then you have to administer a standardized test every year. The standardized tests have to be administered within 1 year of starting your homeschool. And then also every year thereafter, that you can choose from like the Iowa State test, the CAT testing, anything like that. And that's it. Now, the other thing is that you want to send your notice of intent 5 days prior to the initial opening date. If any of your children turn 7 before that, then you want to do it 5 days before the child's 7th birthday. It's one notice per school, not per student. And what else? Again, you don't have to actually resubmit from year to year if your school was previously terminated, or if you terminated your school, then you just need to restart it. Let me think if there's anything else. So if you're not living inside of North Carolina, then you have to file with whatever state that you're going to be living in. Um, so they have recommendations that are not required, but they're encouraged. And that is that you have a journal or lesson plan book that you keep for each day, that you have at least 5 hours of instruction each day, and that you try to stick with similar scope, quality, duration of local conventional schools, and that you retain the records until your student has enrolled at a conventional school. This is not required, but recommended. So, in general, it's super easy to homeschool in North Carolina. You really have very few, like, you have to submit this to us. So we don't have to submit anything to anybody. There is like a thing where they say they could ask you for your attendance record, and they can ask you for your state testing. They don't ask for the scores, but they could ask to show proof that you tested. So the scores can remain private within like your homeschool entity. Like, you don't have to share your score so much, but you may have to share that you tested. So it's super simple to homeschool in North Carolina. I think for the most part, people who homeschool, they want the best for their kids anyway. And so I think most of us do a lot of this regularly. So I don't think that there's anything that you'd have to be worried about. So if you have further questions, obviously, feel free to ask. But otherwise, I hope this is helpful for you all. And I'm super excited to be able to just post a link so that people can have this as a resource. Obviously, if you're not in North Carolina, you need to check with your state's resources. Usually, the Department of Education in that state will list the requirements. Previously, I homeschooled in Georgia, and I had similar requirements to what North Carolina was. Georgia did have some small stipulations that were a little bit different, like we had to homeschool 180 days. We had to homeschool for 4 hours a day. And I think also we had a notice of intent type thing that we had to sign to, and had to keep it on our premises. So obviously check with the website. Usually it's the public education website for your state. It should have clearly outlined rules and regulations regarding how to homeschool in your area. All right, guys, that's it. I hope you have a great day. Bye.